Hello. So I got some new books. This book I got based off a television show called Journey into Darkness or Journey Through Darkness. It was basically the Korean version of Mindhunter. I tried to watch the American Mindhunter, but to be honest, the first couple of episodes were just sex and drama, and they weren't so much about forensic psychology, so I couldn't get through it. But the Korean version's great. So anyways, this book is basically a book that goes over criminal profiling. I believe this guy studied a bunch of criminals and produced data that could be used to predict the behaviors of criminals. So he turned like qualitative interviews into quantitative data. That's what this book is. The next book is a follow-up to Mindhunter. It is, I'm not sure what the difference is between these two books, but this one is a follow-up. It was basically written after. I imagine it's just going to be more thorough. I don't know. We'll see. But it definitely does seem interesting, and I want to get a bunch of books on criminal profiling and forensic psychology because of the show and because of these books. Definitely popularized it for me. The next one is Chip War, The Fight for the World's Most Critical Technology. This book is actually super interesting because America has recently announced a new plan to move back something like $800 billion of chip manufacturing back to America, just enough to protect its critical infrastructure, and Taiwan chip manufacture is also moving to America, at least some of it is. So this will be an interesting book to read, and it's going to be particularly relevant to modern politics. The Future of Professions. I got this book because I'm reading a lot of books recently about the future of jobs. Ever since ChatGPT came out, I got curious about this subject, and I decided, well, okay, let's look into this a little bit more. And there's a few books I have on this one, but this one's really interesting because this one talks about how AI won't replace jobs, but will basically change the nature of a profession. Yeah, this will be interesting. Ben Shepard's A War of Nerves. I basically got this because I was in a bookstore and I wanted a book. Honestly, I do that quite a lot. Soldiers and Psychiatrists. I think this is like the history of psychiatry as it relates to warfare from 1914 all the way up to 1994. And it's actually quite thick. It's actually quite a dense book, which was shocking for me because usually you don't find books like this. It's a bit like of a niche book. You usually don't find it in like a mainstream bookstore, but I'm glad I found it. And I'm excited to read it. Next one is Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc. I don't know if it's Kroc or if it's Crouch. Grinding It Out. I think this is just his overview of McDonald's, like what he did to make McDonald's successful. And since I'm trying to read more business books this year, I saw this in the bookstore and I decided to get it. I'm not particularly excited to read it, but it's a small read. We'll see how it goes. The Price of Inequality by Joseph Stiglitz. Joseph E. Stiglitz. I have his other book. He has another book that I have, and when I recognized the name, but I didn't recognize the title, and so because I recognized the name, I got the book. But I believe this book is about how inequalities make us more inefficient. Which, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm assuming he's going to go a little bit more in-depth into it. Yeah. So this should be an interesting book. ISIS, The State of Terror. I think this book is actually a bit dated now. Let me see. Okay, I don't know what the first 2015? This is first published in 2015. So this book might be a bit dated, but I'll still read it. I don't know much about ISIS, and so if I can get just some information, I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be super up to date. And then the last book is A World Safe for Democracy, Liberal Internationalism in the Crisis of Global Order. I got this book because it's a bit, I can imagine there's going to be a bunch of people who disagree with the ideas inside this book. It should be a book that isn't contentious, but that would be my centrist side speaking. And so I'm going to presume that this book will be quite contentious because most people don't agree with liberal internationalism or global order or even arguably democracy. A lot of people say we don't have democracies anymore. That America is like a failed democracy, or like a backsliding democracy, and it's just soft power or like soft imperialism. I don't know. We'll see how this book goes. Yeah. So that's the last book. Those are the last books I got in the last 2 months, I think. I've been trying to buy less books, but that would be my book haul for May and April. Okay. That being said, guys, bye bye.